Buenos Aires, amigos, amigas, from Lake Chapala, off of Lake Chapala, right on the shores. On the south side of Lake Chapala, I'm with producer, director, cinematographer, writer, Roy Nolan. He was born in Winnipeg, Osis, Manitoba, raised just outside of Ottawa. He then moved to Montreal and worked for the National Film Board of Canada for 8 years. Then moved to San Francisco, lived in the Bay Area for 42 years, has traveled to other continents, and he has a book that's going to be published very soon. I'm going to let him, he's going to talk about that. And he's living here on the south side of Lake Chapala. So it's a pleasure and a privilege to be here with Roy Nolan. Well, you want to go ahead, Roy?
Okay. As you know, I was born in Montreal, in Canada, and I'll go to San Francisco. I was heading for LA actually, and because that's where feature films were made, and I wanted to get into feature films, make films. And so, but I was at the National Film Board of Canada. I had been taught, I started in the animation camera department, and I learned how to do animation camera work for quite a few years, and I really, really liked it. But I really wanted to get out and do films out in the world. So I got a chance. I submitted a proposal for a film that I got eventually made called Country Auction. It was about an auction sale at my in-laws' home, and and it became a classic, a very classic film. It was actually shown in the 50-year anniversary of the National Film Board of Canada. So then I left for San Francisco, for Los Angeles. And I didn't like Los Angeles. It was too smoggy in those days. This is 1963, and I was 28 years old, and I was alone because I left my family in Canada, and they were going to join me later as soon as I got settled in. And so I was putting a coin in the meter because I had an appointment at Schwab's restaurant about a job in Los Angeles in a studio, but I felt a tap on my shoulder, and I turned around, and there was this guy leaning into me, and he was really, really drunk. Boy, was he drunk. And then so I looked at him and I said, he says, "Could I have a coin, please? I need a cup of coffee real bad." I said, "Yeah, you need a cup of coffee real bad." And so I gave him the coin, and I turned around to put another coin in the meter. And then I said, "What the hell am I doing here? I don't really like this." So I turned around to him. I said, "Here's $1 to go with the coin. And how do I get on the freeway and get the highway to go to San Francisco?" And he said, "Oh, you go down." And I drove all night to San Francisco. In those days, there was a 2-lane highway. And I drove all night long behind big trucks and stuff. And then I got to San Francisco around 6 o'clock in the morning to watch the sunrise over the Bay Bridge. And oh my God, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. And I said, "I'll drive a cab in this town before I make a film in LA." But, actually, I made a few films in LA after that anyway. And then I turned around, and that's how I got to San Francisco. Now, I lived in San Francisco for 42 years, and I turned down Hollywood twice. Twice they offered me jobs to direct feature films. And I said, no, I'd rather live in San Francisco and make documentaries. So, with that in mind, let me tell you a little bit about what happened. Not very long after I got there, excuse me, I was offered a job I was asked to teach filmmaking, film editing at the University of California in Berkeley. And Mrs. Smith said to me, she said, Roy, with your experience at the National Film Board, you should have no problems. And they were just starting their filmmaking courses in those days. Well, I looked at the form, that they give you to fill out, and on it, it's right at the beginning, it says, list the places where you got your university degrees. Well, I'd never been to university, so I had no degrees. So I called Mrs. Smith and I said, Mrs. Smith, I can't teach because I have no university degrees. She says, never mind, Mr. Nolan. How many years did you work at the National Film Board? I said, 8 years. She said, fill in the rest of the thing, send it to me, and be ready to start in 2 weeks.
Wow.
So I started in 2 weeks, and I taught for 3 years, a semester each winter, and for university. Then I taught at the San Francisco Academy of Art. I taught a filmmaking class there the 4th time. And I met all these interesting people. And I formed companies with them. And then I made companies. I made all kinds of films and stuff. And I made a whole lot of films because I was doing a lot of camera work in those days. And I had just gotten a new camera, an Eclair NPR, which is the first of its kind, first handheld camera, sound blimp camera. You didn't need a blimp anymore, or one of those big blimps on the camera. And so I was asked to do a lot of documentaries. I did lots and lots of musical things like Peter, Paul and Mary, Creedence Clearwater Revival, the Grateful Dead, and even Johnny Cash at San Quentin. I mean, I filmed all these things. I was really in demand, very big demand, and I ended up doing all kinds of other commercial jobs as well. I ended up doing 12 films for Macmillan Publishing Company, and a whole lot of films for Disney World, Disney Channel, and a lot of worlds for How to Do It books, for ortho books and stuff like that. I met this very interesting guy that was wrote a book called Dear Dr. Hippocrates. All you ever wanted to know about, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And so I asked him if I could make a film about him, and we almost did. But I got beat out by, other films, and so I said, I'll go do something else instead. So I ended up doing, and then I got a chance to work for the German channel, one of the German channels, and I did a whole lot of films for the German channels, like Esalen, New Age, Discovery stuff, and everything else like that. And then I finally got a chance to do what every filmmaker wants to do in his life, was to make a feature film. So I got a chance to make this feature film called Last Free Ride. Wow. It's a story about a poor man with a rich man's dream. He wants to build a boat and sail around the world. Well, it's a story about Joe Tate, and it was introduced to me by Saul Ruda. And Saul had a houseboat on the Sausalito waterfront, and he wanted to make a film about the Sausalito houseboat community. So we made Last Free Ride. I ended up, because Saul didn't have enough experience, I ended up being the cinematographer, the producer, the director, and he and I wrote the script together. So it turned out to be a docudrama, and it had an incredible music track, and it was about a rock and roll band called the Redlegs, and Joe Tate was the guy that wanted to sail around the world. He was building his boat, and it became famous in in Europe and all over America on midnight cinema and everything else. So it became a classic, and that's why I was asked to direct films in Hollywood. And so anyway, that's the kind of things that I did in the 42 years that I made films in San Francisco.
Okay, wow. I want to see some of those films. I know I'll have an opportunity to. I want to mention to the viewers real quick, I met Roy 2 weeks ago through a mutual friend, and we were talking now, for the viewers who aren't aware, I have worked on a film too, but nowhere near at the level that Roy has worked. I only worked on one film, and I got my name in the credits. I'm going to show that film to Roy after this. And we were also talking about a week ago about screenwriters, because I've taken screenwriting courses, film courses, and we were talking about character, plot points, etc. And he's going to give me some tips on that. I took a screenwriting course beforehand. So I'm very happy to have met him, and I think we're very like-minded. We're both progressive thinkers, and that's one of the things I admire about Roy. And so, Roy, you want to talk about the book that you have coming out?
Yes. Now, because I made all this filmmaking career was 42 some years in San Francisco Bay Area, and with all these incredible different situations that I was in. And because I had experience in teaching filmmaking, I decided to pass on that kind of information to other people that were learning how to make films or media of some kind, photography, script writing, or things like that, right? And so I wrote a book. It's called Living My Dream as a Filmmaker as I Dance the Dance of Life. And so it's available now on my website, and I will be putting it out, and I'm writing a sequel to it about my next life, which will be probably in another program, about my living in Mexico and moving here, and what I did when I came here with all my filmmaking that I did in Mexico, and the sequel book that I'm writing for the first one. And so there I am. That's what I'm doing right now. And I'm very, very busy.
And yeah, he is. And he's going to help me. Once again, I have never sold the screenplay, but I'm going to share my ideas with Roy, and maybe he can help me move it along. Maybe someday I'll submit that screenplay somewhere. And
you never know.
You never know.
I mean, that's what I did, write screenplays.
You wrote screenplays.
I wrote a lot of them. I wrote one very classic screenplay, which unfortunately never got made, called The Phantom of Alcatraz. Oh, it was going to be, produced, executive producer Joe Wolf, the guy that did Nightmare on Elm Street. He really liked it, but unfortunately, that's another story. You'll read all about it.
Okay, and you got that book coming out soon, and we'll catch up and do another interview with you. Or do you want to talk? Do you have the title for the book? It's going to be published, and when will it be available? Your book?
Oh, the new one?
Yes.
The new book will be published probably in later this year, in 24, the end of this year.
Okay, in 2024,
yeah.
We're going to catch up with you and talk, and I want to learn more about a lot of things from Roy. He's a great man, and we're going to do another video. He's going to tell us about coming to Mexico and what he's doing here and everything else. He's got a beautiful property here on the south side of Lake Chapala. So tap on that notification bell. You'll be notified of upcoming videos, and you'll see that. And I want to say thanks again to Roy. It's been a privilege and a pleasure to have met you, and I'm going to continue to see you. So, any final thoughts or words?
Oh, that's fine, Chris. No, I'll look forward to talking with you about my life in Mexico when the time comes.
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot, Roy.
Okay.
Okay. Bye-bye.